So just to give you a small background about myself, I'm Kirti Bakshi. I'm a psychotherapist. I've been into this field from 20 years, and I have practically learned all the modalities that are there. And across my journey, I felt, somewhere we needed to learn a lot more, as we all feel that we need to keep going at all the time. So I've just kept my journey of learning going on, and I learned a lot of hypnotherapy. I practice metaphor therapy. That's also what I teach. Metaphor therapy. I also am a trainer for hypnotherapy. I'm a trainer for family constellations, play therapy, and a lot of other modalities. So over my 20 years, I realized that we all need to learn so much more uh, in our toolbox as we go on. We need to keep adding information more and more. So when I started my journey, I started by primarily thinking that I will just be doing hypnotherapy because I so love the modality. And I realized when I started working with people, I would get 50% results, and 50% of the cases I wouldn't be able to understand. Though I come from a psychology background, but I was plainly operating through a window of hypnotherapy. And at that point of time, I just wanted to use those techniques. However, I soon realized that I need to fall back a lot on my knowledge of psychology to understand a few aspects of the clients who came to me. So they were broadly divided into people whom I could work with, or people whom I should actually not work with right now, but I should actually direct them to a psychiatrist and work with them later. I also tried a lot of past life therapies. I do a lot of family constellations. Across all that, I felt my knowledge of working knowledge of psychology has always helped me in deciding my cases, in educating my clients, in also knowing whether I'm going on the right track. So, for example, let us say a client who came to me, and a client came by saying that I'm restless, I keep moving my legs all the time, I can't sleep at night, I have trouble sleeping at night, and I'm just kind of thinking all the time, and I'm unable to function and I cannot work. So, this was the presenting, this is what the clients present to us. So, from a perspective of hypnotherapy, we do understand there are some subconscious restlessness that's going on with the client. So we try and address those. We'll try and do an inner child work. And but at the same level, when we do a 5 sessions of a therapy and we do not get results, it can be possible that we sometimes get results, sometimes we don't get results. So it's at that time when we don't get results, we actually question our skills. Did we go wrong somewhere? And that kind of dents our confidence, because I've done like 5 to 6 sessions with this client, but I haven't got a result. So now this is a presentation of the case was actually anxiety, which we all understand, the restlessness, the insomnia, inability to function, rush of thoughts. This is all anxiety. Now, anxiety, there are types of anxieties which we can address through therapies very, very well. Like if we are using a hypnotherapy or NLP or a cognitive behavior therapy or an inner child therapy, quite a few of the anxiety types we can address very well. However, when it marches on to an advanced level, that is called as GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, those are the people we cannot really help. So we need to kind of seek interventions and then get them back to us and work with them. So we take a slight detour and we kind of give them education about what is happening to them. So I'll tell you a case that happened in Dubai itself. So while I was there for a metaphor therapy training in Dubai, there was this one young boy who came and who said that he feels that there is a ring around his head all the time. And he was working with a spiritual healer at that time. And he just happened to talk to me, and the healer talked to me and said that, Kirti, I have done around 10 sessions with this child and we are not getting any results. And the child kept on saying that he was fine, otherwise he was going to work, he was functional. but he just kept on feeling that there's a ring or a band around his head that tightens up all the time, making him feel extremely, extremely restless. And at that, it's that time that he was losing his focus and concentration. And yet at other times he would be fine, but he was extremely restless about this feeling, this sensation of a tight band around his head. So inner child work was done, hypnotherapy was done, commands were put in to relax. We took him back to the first time that he experienced this. We tried to look for the trigger event or the memory that actually triggered that feeling. He couldn't really recall any of the particular trigger moments, but he just said that, he's just increasingly growing to feel like this. So all the therapies having been tried, I actually told the healer and the client themselves that, why don't we just look at an evaluation? We can do a psychometric evaluation, for which I referred him to a friend. We did an evaluation and he came down with something called as excessive anxiety and a delusional disorder of anxiety. So he went to the doctor, he took medicine for 15 days, following which that entire headband feeling actually relaxed. Then he came back into therapy, and then I worked on him, and we realized that it's been building up since childhood. But when he was going through it, he could not identify the trigger events. It was only when that anxiety related chemical imbalance had been addressed that we could work on him. And then he is like today functioning absolutely fine. But he's figured out, he's understood that whenever he goes through stress, or when his anxiety or his thought or his work overload is too much, that's the time the chemicals in the brain shift and he starts getting this feeling. So after that, it has never happened. It's been 5 years. It's never really happened after that, because we could educate him, we could help him think. There are times clients come to us in a situation where we can't get them to think, we can't get them to regress, we can't get them to even get hypnotized, we can't get them to even follow a logical sequence of events. And yet at other times, there are people who come to us and one hypnotherapy session does like fantastic wonders to them, or one CBT or, one NLP technique would work wonders to them. So while we are all equipping ourselves, with all the different techniques, I also think that working knowledge of psychology would empower us so much, because we would be less discouraged, we would get the right direction of work. Let me also share with you yet another small girl that I'm working with nowadays. She's a 10 years old child, and she has come with the complaint of defying. So she is constantly defying and lying, and she also steals on impulse. So I was working with her, and I started asking her, to rapport building, and then asking her that when does she get this impulse, what drives her to do these little gestures. And then she told me that it was, her parents who separated. Following that, she's missing the father, and the parenting styles are very different. The father is a very permissive parent, the mother is a strict disciplinarian. She can't choose between the two of them, and the mother expects her to be very perfect, and the father on the other hand just is allowing her to get away with little things. So she was learning that about herself, and yet she was not able to attend a focus on her classroom. So I told her, so this was what she told me, that this is what is happening to her. However, when I did some more play therapy and children therapy with her, I came to understand that she is having learning disability. So her entire problem was beginning from the classroom. The need to actually be so perfect was beginning with the classroom, and she started hiding her writing because she's having dyslexia. Now, she had been to earlier other counselors and therapists who probably at that point of time could not bring it down that it starts in the classroom. So it started by hiding her notebooks from her parents, because her notebooks were really badly written, and there were so many remarks in that every time she would look at those remarks, she would want to hide them. So this whole instinct of hiding started from there. So I told the parents, let's do an evaluation for her. And in that, she was diagnosed with dyslexia and dysgraphia. And we helped her get the grants, we helped the parents understand, and we put her on a remedial coaching. So the remedial coaching immediately, started helping her. Now the rest of the work that we were left to do was gather back her self-esteem, bring back her confidence, bring back her attention level. So we were working side to side. There was a remedial education going on for her, and there was, confidence building that was going on with her. So that combination worked very well. So again, now over here, I'm emphasizing the need of knowing learning disabilities. So most of the people who are in therapists or are playing therapists may not have access to that knowledge. So we may be actually working in the direction where we don't know what we're really working with. So in the courses that we run, like the basic psychology and the advanced psychology workshop, we are going to be covering all of this. So number one, it's going to help us identify what are we dealing with. Second, it'll help us to identify at what point of time do I need an intervention, or I can educate my client about what's going on. So again, another example. There was a client who is working for an IT company and said that he is unable to complete his projects, and which is why he's getting a lot of stress and flack from his employers, and he was like fearing losing a job. So I started working with him, and I asked him questions, and I asked him the starting point and where does that go back to, and emotional issues were resolved. But what I also learned about him was his study pattern across his age group. And what he revealed to me was that he's always had attention issues. Like he's never been able to pay more attention more than 15 to 20 minutes, and he needed to take a break every 20 minutes or every 25 minutes. Then he suddenly, like a eureka moment also, realized that every time he was studying, his eyes would move, his hands would turn the page. But after 5 pages, he would suddenly realize, oh, like I've come this far and I don't know what I've read. So he went into a daze. Just as he was studying, he went into a daze. Now, typically, that's what we call as ADD, attention deficit disorder. So I actually gave him a checklist. I actually helped him search on the net for ADD. I actually asked him that, does this sound like you? Does this look like you? And he was like, when he was going through the checklist, I could see the insights, the enlightening eyes that he was having. And he said, oh my God, I never ever realized that, this is actually what's been going on with me all the time. And he started researching more and more and more about ADD, and he stopped blaming himself. Earlier, he was like constantly full of guilt for not being able to perform, for not being able to deliver, for not being able to focus. So we did give him coping strategies about how after 25 minutes you can take a break. You can, do some deep breathing, bring in more attention back. And so I did that much with him. I gave him the education. I worked with him. I gave him a recording to, take care of the attention spans, which were expanding from 20 minutes to 25 to 30 minutes. And it wasn't burning him out. And he realized that because there was no guilt associated, that 30 minutes that he was working, he could do so much more work because he was guilt-free. Apart from that, what he also did was he sought help from a psychiatric friend. He had a friend and who put him on a very small medicine, and probably for 15, 20 days or maybe a month. And he started getting better focus at work. However, he decided that he does not want to have the medicine, but he started doing a lot of yoga, pranayam, and eye fixation techniques. Through that techniques, he started expanding his concentration level. And he actually told himself, all right, today I'm sitting for 20 minutes, tomorrow I'm sitting for 25 minutes, and now I'm here at 30 minutes. That plain 2 sessions of educating him about what was the problem actually resurfaced his self-esteem, where he said he had actually grown up all along blaming himself. And every time he couldn't pay attention in a math problem or in a science problem, there would be somebody or teacher kind of shouting at him, or a parent who would kind of give a small tap on his head and say, okay, pay attention. Okay, pay attention. Now, all those moments of, humiliation, force had actually brought down his self-esteem to a level where he thought that everyone can do it and I can't do it. So, and he was blaming himself all the time. So that kind of stopped, and he understood his problem. He researched, he read so much more about it. He found out holistic ways of dealing with it. He also went to a nutrition which would help him focus, and he improved over the time. So just last week, I had a session with him, and he told me that was an eye opener. And that not only helped him have a better self esteem, that also helped him take care of his finances, because he was delaying all the time. When you can't pay attention to something, you tend to procrastinate. So it also resolved his problem of procrastination. So then we took him towards his peak periods of study, towards his peak periods of attention, towards how he can have sustained attention, how a workout would kind of sustain his attention a little more, how mindfulness would help him expand the focus. So we trained him into mindfulness. Today he is way, way more happier, performing way more better. Had it not been for me explaining to him that he is not responsible for this, it's actually ADD. Now, why does ADD happen? What are the different formations of ADD? What is ODD? What is ADHD? Is what we are going to learn in our workshops, and how we are going to give our clients coping strategies. That is what we are going to be learning in the workshops that we have coming up on the 30th and 31st, and then we have it next week. It's a 4-day workshop, and we'll be covering all these topics. Apart from this, we would also be covering defense mechanism. So what is a defense mechanism? We all know some of the defense mechanisms are well known to all of us. Denial is a defense mechanism where we can be in denial of something that we do not wish to accept. Transference is another defense mechanism where we transfer our irritation from one topic or one event to yet another event. However, there are many more defense mechanisms that we need to be aware of. There are classified 14 to 15 defense mechanisms. If only we could identify them, we could talk to the client about the defense mechanisms, we could break their defense mechanisms, and we could help them come in the moment, in the now. Because, I have seen, or I have also heard, people going into therapy and not opening up because of their defense mechanism, always kind of blaming. So I've seen like couples in a relationship counseling, we see that all the couples come blaming each other all the time. It's only when you look at what is their classical defense mechanism, you can help them see that first. And then the blame game actually drops. So there are checklists for each one of them. There is a proper way of working with them. Apart from that, we can then, after all that is done, we will go in for a therapy. So a therapy comes right in the end of a session. Like if we are taking a 1-hour session, 45 minutes is a client and therapist conversation time. 15 to 20 minutes is what we use as a closure technique for therapy. In that 45 minutes, the sharpness of the therapist in diagnosing and then deciding the line of therapy is a very beautiful combination. There are many CBT techniques, many charts that can be done in CBT that we will be discussing during the workshop. So here's another example I'll share with you. So I had a client from Goa, and he tells me that it's been 15 years he hasn't slept well. Like he sleeps for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, that's about it. And when I was talking to him, he was like a type 1 personality and always on the thinking mode. I tried my level best during my 45 minutes of debriefing with him that he was giving me to figure out what does he feel. And he couldn't come up with any feeling. He was just thinking and thinking and thinking. So I gave him a small CBT exercise. and I told him to write down all his thoughts on one side and all his feelings on one side and come back to me in 3 days' time. He did not turn up in 3 days' time, he turned up in 10 days' time. So after 10 days, he says, when he reported for therapy, he says, you know what, it is so strange that just writing those things down made me sleep. And I I just so underestimated this little exercise when you were giving it to me. I never thought it'd make a difference to me. But just writing that down actually put me off to sleep. And I realized as days passed by and I kept writing, I realized that I could first write only 2 feelings, then I could write 3 feelings, then I could write 4 feelings. And as the 10th day came, I had so many feelings that I could write about. And now I want to deal with all those feelings. So this is what we call as a defense mechanism of repression. In repression, a client generally is not aware of what they have repressed. So until and unless they are not aware of what or they are not willing to understand that there is repression, our therapies will not help them, because at a cognitive level, clients who are thinkers are going to not take our analysis. They're not going to take what we think. And also it's wrong for us to impose a diagnosis or a viewpoint on them until they don't come to this understanding. So once he came to that understanding that he has been having repression, I had a way forward. I could work with him and I could kind of get extremely good results. At the same time, there are on the other side. Now let's look at the other side. So there are people who come in and tell us that I am schizophrenic. My doctor has told me I'm schizophrenic. And so we kind of look at them, we look at their functionality. Now we know the checklist, okay? So we know what is schizophrenia. We also know what is high spectrum anxiety disorder. We also know what's a confused state of mind. So I started working with this one girl who was on medication for 7 years. And when she came and she narrated everything that was going on with her, I told her, I said, I'm sorry, but I'd like to actually have a different viewpoint. Because if I have a different viewpoint, maybe I can work upon you. I also told the parent that, I would like to take a chance here and I'd like to work with her, not taking her label of schizophrenia. And so I started working with her. There was so much repression, but at the end of it, I noticed there was an intent. There was an intent in what she was doing. And I wanted to get to that intent. And I wanted her to get to an intent. That's where I used hypnotherapy. I helped her learn about her intent, not only learn, accept the intent with which she was doing what she was doing. There was a fair amount of awareness in whatever she was doing. And at the end of 3 months of therapy, she actually agreed to the fact that whatever she was doing was so intentional, because she had a thing going with her mother and she wanted to actually make the mother feel bad for having married second time and bringing in a stepfather who wasn't very good to her, and that she was kind of doing it all to get the attention of the mother and constantly keep the mother focused on her. Now, mind you, she was a medical student. Okay, she was actually studying psychiatry. And when we worked with her, and at the end of 3 months, slowly, she started getting insight. She realized, she went back to her doctors and she said, I want to reduce my medication. I want to try reducing my medication. So we actually heightened the therapeutic support and we reduced her medication. Today, she is medicine free totally. And she's doing fantastic. I'm not advocating that you should give up your medicine. So there can be false diagnosis even there. And we can also be actually taking a schizophrenia, if we don't understand, into hypnosis, which is also contraindicated. So here's the thing. Another one I'll tell you of a reverse scenario where a therapist who did not have the working knowledge of psychology was working with a client who was completely delusional and was having chemical imbalance. So the client goes to the hypnotherapist And the hypnotherapist actually does a past life regression with him, in which he sees that his grandmother is the one who's holding back his progress. And he carried that image with him. And then I guess some energy work was done, which also he carried with him. And he went back home and he became extremely, extremely aggressive. And he started behaving very badly with the grandmother, because somewhere he believed what he had seen, but not realizing that he was not in a proper state of mind and he shouldn't have gone through regression. So everything works. Regression works beautifully. Hypnotherapy works fantastic. NLP is a great line of work. But at the right time, for the right type of client, the right technique and the right therapy. That's what we must focus on. So apart from having a knowledge of therapies, a knowledge of working psychology is extremely important for our success. And that's what I intend to cover in my 4 days workshop that we are having coming up at Illumination Dubai. So if any of you all are interested to know more about it, you can probably write to us. We'll send you the course details. So we will be covering defense mechanisms. We'll be covering anxiety spectrum. We are covering personality disorders. We are going to be covering dissociative disorders. We are going to be covering mood disorders. We are going to be covering children disorders. We are going to be covering teenage issues and concerns, this drug addiction, basics of CBT, basics of identifying of PTSD, basics of doing a little bit of a chart work, or what kind of assignments we can give to them, how to identify. All that is what we're going to be covering in our courses. So it is worth giving all your time to. And I recommend that if we want to add to our success and confidence levels, let's enrich ourselves and let's learn more. Learning, of course, is never ending, as we all know. We'll continue to learn. So I'm ready right now. If you all have any questions, I'm ready to take your questions right now.
Sorry, may I ask, the first case you were talking about, what was the problem with the guy again?
I'm sorry, which was the case? Can you help me recall?
That he was moving his legs and he was moving.
So his problem was that he always has anxiety as a child, which went undiagnosed. So if he was taken into therapy as a child, it would have actually resolved. But since it went undiagnosed, it became into a GAD, which you call as a generalized anxiety disorder, which is where, due to continuous rigorous stress all the time, the clients begin to have a slight bit of a chemical change. And the GAD does not respond very well to a therapy overnight, because it's a very long-term sustained line of work. But to be able to identify that is the beginning of a good therapy.
So this like moving legs is like a symptom of that?
It can be. A generalized anxiety patient can have different symptoms. A restless leg syndrome can come from there, yes.
Okay. Okay, so that has to be like dealt with first with a psychologist, or we
have to be able to identify whether we are able to work with this client, because sometimes we need to actually take some supportive help in settling down their anxiety.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else who has a question? I think we're 9 of us here, friends. If anyone has a question, I'll be really happy to answer.
Sorry, this psychology training, like when is it again? 31st of October and?
6th and 7th of November, we have a complete course in psychology that we will be teaching.
So 31st and 6th and 7th of November.
That's right.
Okay. And is there a minimum like number of people that you need to have, or a maximum number of people, something like that?
So I generally, when I generally take up 10 to 15 people is what I like to have, is because we can cater to questions better. So that's what my batch formation normally is.
That's gonna be a full day, both two
It's
full days.
2 full days with a break for 1 hour for lunch, two breaks of 20 minutes. And there's going to be interactive sessions where you all are going to be doing hands-on assignment, work, reporting back. And yeah, it's interactive. So you wouldn't be listening to me all the time. You would actually be working on it.
So one is the basic one and the other one is advanced?
Yeah, one is basic, one is advanced, yes.
And like what time do they finish? Sorry, I'm asking so many questions.
Don't worry, don't worry. 5:36 is when we finish.
5:36. Oh.
We start.
I mean, this is like just you're gonna do this again because those dates are like a bit last minute. I'm already have something like planned.
We'll check with Illuminations. Please make it a point to notify them of your interest, and Illuminations will take care of that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be great. I'm very, very keen. Yeah.
All right, great. Your name, please?
Sarah.
All right, Sarah. We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll be in touch. Anyone else having a question? Okay. So I guess the other participants are, there's Sarah here, there's Amir, Kinza. Yeah, so others are there. I think when the Facebook Live will happen, more people, Facebook will be there, or more people will be able to see it. So for now, if we don't have any questions, I would like to brief you all about my other work that I do. I also train in metaphor therapy. Metaphor therapy is level 1 is drawing analysis and color psychology, in which we analyze drawings to understand the subconscious of the client. And then we have 10 different projective techniques that we teach you how to work with clients. That also includes a whole lot of exercises that you will learn, so you can actually flow along for 10 sessions with a client. I will give you a 10-session material to go with the client. Projective techniques are basically Jungian line of therapy and work fantastically well for clients who do not wish to have a eye closed induction or do not wish to lie down for hypnosis. Metaphor therapy is yet another extremely good substitute. Another workshop that I do is play therapy, is working with young children from 2 to 12 years of age. How do you, through the use of play, understand them, imbibe values, connect to them, and transform their behaviors? So these are some of the other workshops that I do at Illuminations Dubai. So you could probably exhibit your interest and we'll get back to you on the dates that we have the workshops on. And yeah, so that's it from me. Any other information if you all need, you all can reach out to Illumination or you could reach out to me.
Are those training you just spoke about already scheduled somewhere, or they're still like need to be decided?
Which one? Metaphor therapy?
Sorry, can you repeat all of them? Because I couldn't, I only understood the kids one. Which one are the other ones, please?
Metaphor therapy and play therapy.
Metaphor?
Yeah, metaphor therapy is drawing analysis, color psychology, and projective techniques.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and play therapy is working with children from 2 to 12 years of age.
Okay. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah?
Yeah,
so,
thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yes, please.
I have 3 daughters, and me and my ex have been separated for 5 years now. And she's, already, she's pregnant with the 3rd new baby right now with the new guy. And I'm just wondering, I want to get them into some type of counseling or therapy. What would you recommend? My oldest is 14, and then my middle is 11, and then my youngest is 8.
Okay, so they could, all of them, so the 14 would go into teenage counseling and therapy, The other two can go in for play therapy sessions. It would be great for them to kind of understand, process their feelings, express their feelings, identify the sense of loss or grief or whatever they have, and develop good coping mechanisms.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Right, friends, so we sign off here and let's be in touch. Hope to see as many people on Facebook seeing this video to be connected to us and see somebody at the workshop there. And otherwise, we're always around. If you have questions, you can WhatsApp to us, you can write to us, and we'll be more than willing to answer all your questions and help you all in whatever way we can. That's what we're here for.
Can I just ask another question?
Sure, you can.
Sorry, this metaphor therapy, is
Yeah.
it like the one you will use for someone who doesn't believe in God or something like that?
So most of the psychotherapy formats don't have to have your belief system with God in question. Uh, a therapy should be independent of that belief.
Okay.
So even if you don't believe in God, it's got nothing to do with your therapy. So it's not a spiritual kind of work. It's about your mind, the depths of your mind, and the repressions of your mind that are at work.
Okay, so how is
it
this
doesn't matter if you believe or you don't believe.
Hello? Hello? Hi? Sorry, I can't hear anymore. Okay. The audio just came off for some reason. Really sorry, I can't hear. Okay, never. I'll connect again. Hello? No, I can't hear.
I cannot hear her voice too.
Oh, okay, now I can. No, I cannot.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, now, okay.
Okay. So tell me, Sarah, what did you want to know?
Yeah, it was about the metaphor therapy. How is it different from the other hypnotherapy?
Hello?
Sorry. Can you hear me? Oh dear.
Sarah,
Hello?
can you hear me now?
Yes. Hello? the voice keeps on getting cut.
Sarah,
Hello?
I can hear you, but maybe Kirti couldn't hear us.
Okay, yes. Okay, so we can all hear each other now? No. Okay, maybe I can write a message or something. Hello. Okay, just wanted to know, how is metaphor therapy different from the
Oh, I keep on. Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Yes, Sarah. Tell me what you want to know.
I just wanted to know, how is the metaphor therapy different from the hypnotherapy?
Metaphor therapy is a conversational trance. Hypnotherapy is an induction trance. In hypnotherapy, you have to do a reverse countdown induction, take the permission from the client, and then do the therapy. In a metaphor therapy, just as you are talking to a client, you are conversing with them. You can do trance induction, or you can better still do guided imagery exercises with them, or you can also do a verbal metaphor in which every word is a metaphor, and we could cross analyze those metaphors. We can do drawing analysis, we can do projective techniques to picture strips.
Okay.
Okay.
A lot of options. Amazing. Okay. So the classes are going to be in the illumination settings?
They're online. They're going to be online.
They're going to be online. Okay.
Yes. So this course that's coming up is online, friends.
I see. And it's going to be the whole day.
Yeah, but we have enough breaks, so don't stress about that. It sounds like a long duration, but it's going to be a very interactive and interesting session where you would be doing a lot of work. So it's fairly spaced out in terms of time.
I'm not worried about the time. It's just,
yeah.
Thank you. I'm just worried about like I already have something happening that weekend. That's so. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
What are you worried about, Sarah?
No. Just because I had some other like commitments on that weekend. That's all. I was just yeah.
All right.
Also,
okay. I can understand that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Deanne, are you here, Deanne?
Yes.
Amanda, okay. So any questions, Amanda? You're Deanne or Amanda? You're Deanne, right?
Yeah, you can call me anything. Okay, I actually want to ask a question, but okay, so I know someone. She looks like she had a dissociative identity disorder. But I'm not sure if she really had that. I mean, she looked like a bit like acting or maybe kind of that. But I sometimes I see her like she is changing her identity. Like she used different names in her social media, and she act like completely different from the person that I know. Like I already know like she has 3 personalities, or maybe she has more than that, but I only see her 3 personalities, and it's been a long time. I lost contact with her, and then I keep in touch with her again like about 1 month ago. Then when I said a happy birthday to her, then she said like she just like being angry to me. She's like she's just mad at me, and I don't know what did I do with her, and I don't know what should I do with her. I think I don't know. Okay. I can't think anything. I only thing right now is I don't know what to do with her. I just miss her as she is my friend, but I don't know what to do with her. She's just like being mad at me without, I don't know what is my fault to her. And well, okay, just that. So what should I do?
There are certain personality types who are unpredictable in their behavior, and their regulation of emotions is very different. So we have to just kind of take it in our stride and understand there are complex personality patterns that they follow. So without letting ourselves getting affected, we must take it as a part of their personality presentation and accept that, and that's about it. So align your expectations. Do not have too much expectation from a personality that is not consistent. Right?
Okay, I got
So
that.
it's all about understanding that there's a complex personality there. My expectations from her need to be aligned. Okay,
Okay,
so you'll be hurt lesser, and you will have less, shall I say, disappointment.
okay, I understand. And
All
should I
right.
tell her to see a professional or something kind of that? Because I'm still too afraid to talk to her.
So that's up to her, because very often people who are not open to us generally do not like to be told to see a therapist, to see a professional. But we can, if at all she does open up to you and she's fine with it, and there can be that little moment of connect where you could guide her, you could tell her that, that she needs to get a better handle over her understanding, and that she could kind of see a therapist to clear her mind.
Okay,
Provided she's open to you. Provided she's open.
okay. Well, we
Yeah.
used to be a very close and very good friend back then, but then I think like the person that was angry to me is her another personality, but as much as I remember, as far as I remember, all of her personality knows me, so there couldn't be like some of her personality that know me, but it's just like all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, like
Maybe she's
getting
going
mad
through
at me.
something at her end. Maybe she's
Oh,
going through something at her end, and she would require to clear herself. That's what.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
don't
okay.
take it personally. Don't take it personally.
Yeah, okay. I understand that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Most welcome. Anyone else who has a question? Kinza, are you fine? Do you get the contents of the workshop? Any questions with Kinza? Lisa? Are you all here, guys?
If nobody else has a question, I do have one. Sorry.
Yes, Sarah, we are with you. Don't worry.
I just I was wondering, will we get some
Yeah,
kind
Sarah,
of
tell us.
tools like test to actually find out whether these people have some.
Yes, we will be. We will be. We will be covering those.
So we can actually use those tests to check if our clients have some kind of personality
So we are
disorder.
classically um, trained or certified to do the test, but we could refer the people, but we could do the checklist ourselves.
Okay, yeah, that would be amazing, actually. Okay,
Yeah.
thank
So
you.
I will be equipping her with all the checklists.
Good. Okay, thanks.
All right, friends. So I call it off here. And if there are any more questions, we are on WhatsApp. Do connect to Illuminations for joining the course. Hope to see you all there. And
Yeah.
we'll be in touch.
I have one question.
All right.
Can
Sure.
I just feel I'm so easy to get connected with people, and whenever they have problem, it seems like all I have the problems, and sometimes I do the like which is not belongs to me, so just release in the light or something, or I say something but it's not like I put like a shell, before the section, whatever. But I just feel, I mean, so easy to get connected with people, and their problem become like mine. I just sometimes I'm afraid to do the section for the people because I feel like it's added to on me personally.
What are you doing?
I'm doing the setas, I'm doing the chakra, and also the Reiki, whatever. But the thing is, I just feel I'm so easy to connect to the people. I can feel how they feel, and I know it's not good for me, and but I don't know how I can distance this feeling.
Yeah. So this is very common in therapists who are very sensitive and who are operating more from the heart chakra. It becomes very common for them to, kind of identify with the other person's problem. But here's what you need to do. You need to actually train yourself to be like a camera. So all the therapists and the healers or the psychologists are like a camera and who are observing the client through a lens of objectivity. So once you understand that's the only role you have to play, you do not kind of identify with them. And in case you still do identify, maybe you will need to work a lot on aligning yourself, probably, also seal up your auras. But at the same time, you have to develop a more objective outlook towards your clients. So that objectivity is something that comes as a matter of practice. And as you keep on practicing, you may want to maintain a note of what in this client's problem actually I identify with, or what in this client's problem stirred which of my emotions. So a good therapist or a counselor would be like a camera who's observing without getting involved. Develop that skill in yourself.
Okay, so you mean just the distance myself and should consider this one is like a camera. But if in this way, I feel I cannot be so involved and to get the feeling, especially when we do very intense healing, like the theta healing. So you feel you really, open your chakras and you connect to the patient there. And sometimes even they
So you have to be uninvolved. You're just a medium.
Okay, I got you. But sometimes even, when the people feel the pain, and later I feel I had the same pain, it's a so weird feeling.
That's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. That what happens the moment you get emotionally triggered, it triggered something within yourself. So you need to do more of self-work first.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, most welcome. Right. So we're still open for questions if there's anyone else who has a question. Right, guys. So since we are done with the questions, we'll close the session now and we'll be in touch through Illuminations. Please keep in touch with all our programs that we post you at Illuminations. And if you all have questions, you can write into me on WhatsApp. You can write into Illuminations. Messages will be forwarded to me. I would be more than willing to answer all your questions. Do let me know if you require more content on what we are going to cover in the psychology workshop. I would be sending that to you. And please do forward the messages to all your friends. And let's keep in touch. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Most welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.
Bye. Thank you. Same to you all. Bye.